Hello and welcome to the I3 lecture series hosted by the Masters in Digital Photography here at the School of Visual Arts. I am Julie Graham. Appropriately enough, as we leap into spring, we welcome Stephanie Berger. Stephanie is best known for her dance, music and live performance photography. For more than 30 years, she has been a house photographer in venues including the Brooklyn Academy of Music, Lincoln Center, the Park Avenue Armory, Carnegie Hall and the Met Museum. Stephanie has also performed some high-flying feats herself, scaling bridges with New York City's Department of Transportation. As a photographer for the New York Times for many years, her assignments included everything from ballet to hip-hop, Broadway openings to Shakespeare in the parking lot, portraits of presidential candidates to families living in homeless shelters. Her work has been exhibited widely, including at the 92nd Street Y, Lincoln Center's Library for the Performing Arts, the New York Public Library for the Performing Arts at Lincoln Center, and the New York State Theatre Gallery, and more. Her book about the American dancer and choreographer Merce Cunningham, Beyond the Perfect Stage, was published in 2016 by Damiani and is in the collections of the Museum of Modern Art, the Dia Arts Foundation, Mass MoCA, and the George Pompidou Center. Let's please give a lovely warm welcome for Stephanie.
All right. Oh, hello, everybody. Thank you so much for coming. It's great to see all of you, my friends and colleagues here. There's quite a lot of photography colleagues as well, so thank you all for coming. Anyway, so I'm going to show you photos, but first I'm going to show you sort of the beginning of my career because also this is a lot of students here, and I wanted to just go through the beginning of how I started working as a photographer in New York. My first job out of college was at the Associated Press, and I was hired as a photo researcher there. And I worked there for a few years, but I always wanted to be a photographer, not just a photo researcher. So I pitched stories to them, and one of the stories that I pitched was the commissioner of traffic at the time was Sam Schwartz, who used to go around with like a caravan of tow trucks and tow all kinds of cars that were illegally parked, and including like FedEx trucks and diplomat cars and all sorts of things. And he had the sign, "Don't even think of parking here," and Gridlock Sam. Anyway, the story ended up getting picked up. It kind of went viral at the time, which is, back then it was a very different story. They actually sent out packages with printed photos and text. But he loved it, and then he wanted to hire me as a photographer for he became the commissioner of transportation, and he hired me, I should say, as the staff photographer for the Department of Transportation. And this was like mid-'80s to early '90s. And one of the things that was going on was that the bridges were really falling apart. They were starting to really have infrastructure at risk. So he wanted me to climb bridges and sort of document the bridges, and so that's what I did, having never done such a thing before, but that's what and I got totally into it, of course, because it was amazing, and went with all the bridge workers and bridge engineers and climbed up the girders, went underneath the bridges, and also we did all sorts of things for the city of New York, like the water tunnels and if there'd be giant sinkholes or big emergencies, and so it was quite an education and really fun to photograph. So I'm just going to show you this is the Williamsburg Bridge. And here again is, you can see all the deterioration. And I got really into knowing a lot of the workers, so I would say, we would go in the morning, we would go in the evening, we would go all different times of the day, and I would ask them to take me up, which they obliged. Yeah. And there's nice holes underneath the Williamsburg Bridge. So, this is on top of the Brooklyn Bridge. one of the things was that one time I would go with different people and we were like on top of one of the bridges and I'm looking at them, they're looking at me and my hair is like flying up like this and we realized that we're in the middle of a thunderstorm, a lightning storm, and this is like not the place you want to be on top of a steel tower of a bridge. So there's me. And we had, we would grip onto walk up the cables. Yeah. So while I was there, I did a lot of different stories and I got published a lot of places. But one of the things we did was a story about women who work in non-traditional jobs at the Department of Transportation. So we interviewed a lot of the different women from Staten Island ferry workers to bridge workers to pothole fillers to engineers. And we had a big exhibit at City Hall with the mayor. And I'll show you some of the photos, yeah. And it was great, but after I was published in the Daily News magazine, which was kind of a big deal at the time, the Daily News magazine, they sent me a check. And because I worked for the city of New York, I couldn't accept the check because I was a city worker. So I had to return it, but I said now is the time for me to start freelancing. I wanted to start being a freelance photographer in New York. So I quit my job and started to freelance. And this is me with, I don't know if people know Ed Koch. The old timers here do, but I don't know about the young people. So that's him. Yeah, hold on. Funny, okay. So then I started to freelance, but during those years I also did a project called, I photographed the 52nd Street Project, which was a theater group for kids that lived in the Hell's Kitchen area. And it still exists today, but it was started by this man, Willie Reale, who gathered all these young actors and playwrights and composers. Everybody was sort of starting at the beginning of their careers. And we all just worked together and we sort of mentored the kids. And one of the things that we also did was we would take them at least 1 or 2 weeks in the summer out to Block Island or Tannersville. And it was a really amazing program. And I've revisited the photos. These are all black and white, 2 1/4 negative portraits. This is Lily Taylor. The one before that was Fran McDormand. And this is Peter McNichol, and the man on the right is Henry Krieger, who is a big Broadway composer. He wrote Dreamgirls. So like we would go out, and all these people were incredible actors, but everybody was really young. Like you didn't know where people's careers were going to go. Including Henry would write all these songs that were like Broadway tunes, but they were, funny little lyrics and stuff. And they would have playwrights that would write, and the actors, and a kid would act in it. Sometimes kids would write plays and 2 actors would act in it. So showing you some of the portraits. And one of the things now is that, as I said, I'm sort of revisiting this project because I during the time when we were doing it, we published a little book and we had exhibits, but I hadn't really looked at the work in a long time. So recently they had a tribute to one of the people, and I went back to my archives and found all these beautiful black and white portraits that I wanted to, print and scan. So that's what I've been doing. This is a comedian, Louis Black. And also, when they were, the kids, they were young, little kids, and then I went back again during this time and also photographed them as teenagers or young adults. And also, one of the reasons I wanted to talk about this too is because even though it was great for them to get mentored by all these people, it was also really great to be a mentor. And so just revisiting that whole idea of being a mentor to young people and what it means and to show kindness and all of that. So it's been an interesting project to revisit. And now I've been working with Willie a bit, who started the project, who actually won a MacArthur grant for that project, to go back and interview the kids now. And we don't know exactly where it's going to go, but maybe we'll do an online book or something like that, right? But the kids have gone on. Some of them have been, they're actors, they're therapists, they're social workers, they're mothers, and some of the kids, you know, had harder times and just like this kid here is Arlen, who actually passed away. And that's Vanessa. She's a teenage mom. I haven't seen her in a long time. I need to revisit with her. And this is Tia. Again, she actually also passed away, sadly. So. Anyway, it was just really great to go back and see black and white, 2 1/4 film, you know, prints that I made pre-digital, even though I know this is actually a digital photography class, but what can I say? And then this was the kids who are grown up. So these are the ones some of them I'm going to go back to and get more interviews with them. And then I wanted to show you also, so I was freelancing. I started working a lot for the New York Times, running around. I had a beeper. I started working again for a lot of institutions at Lincoln Center and New York Magazine and different Village Voice and different publications. And, you know, they would call you and you would run and you had, you know, be there tonight, be there tomorrow morning, can you go right now? Sometimes it was breaking news, and it was great. It was really fun and interesting, and I had a lot of really cool assignments. But then eventually I got married and I had these two, which are my twin sons. And I want to also show this because shout out to all the working mothers out there, working mother photographers, because life definitely changes when you have a family. And my life totally changed when I had mine, being not so free to run around and answer the call of being a freelance photographer, but having to sort of be a little more scheduled. But happily, joyously, with these two. I'm just going to show a few of these pictures. And actually, one of them is right there.
Can you guess who?
And this is them now, 23 years later. Hairy monsters that they are. No, I'm kidding. Anyway, so now I'm going to show you more about my performing arts photography, of which I'm going to talk about. And I'm going to show you basically just photos of sort of all the choreographers and dancers that I love and have worked with over the years. So this is Pina Bausch, who's a German choreographer. She passed away, but really important work, really influential, amazing performances that she did. And this is one of her major pieces called The Rite of Spring. This was done at BAM, but it was, you know, it's been all over the world. Very beautiful. And then this is actually also The Rite of Spring, but during COVID, when everything shut down and there was no performances for a year, nothing live, this group of dancers from Africa gathered, and there's a dance school in Senegal, so they got all these dancers from Africa came, and they recreated this piece, The Rite of Spring, Pina Bausch's choreography, and they did it out on a beach, and they filmed it, and it was on social media, and it was, you know, amazing and beautiful, and then actually they actually toured this group, this group of dancers, and they actually came to the Park Avenue Armory, and it's really interesting to see the comparison between the Pina Bausch on her company of white dancers, and then on black bodies of this African group. And then this is Martha Graham Dance Company. This is right after she passed away in 1991. This was at BAM, first time the company performed since she had passed away. And they still continue to perform now. She's from the 1930s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, so 80s, 90s, you know. And this is the company at the Met Museum in the Temple of Denver. And this is Bill T. Jones, and this was actually the first performance they did right after COVID. So finally, you know, as I said, nothing happened for a year, no live performance, and he had been working on a piece called Deep Blue Sea, so it was canceled, but this was finally, after a year, they performed it at the Park Avenue Armory, and it was really beautiful and also really emotional to see live performance, live dance after a year. And then this is Tricia Brown Dance Company, who I photographed a lot. She had a lot of different collaborators over the years, and I photographed the company many times. And I just recently photographed the company, which I'll show you later, some photos. But this is probably about, 10 years ago or something like that. But over time, and some of it in her studio, some of it in live performance. This again, Tricia Brown. This is Anna Teresa de Kersmacher. I love this photo for all the different shadows and the movement. This is film. It's on with film. Also Anna Teresa. And so also one of the things I also try to do as a dance photographer is or performance photographers, you try to get up close. So a lot of times we shoot during dress rehearsals. We also shoot during live performance, which poses a whole set of other problems or challenges, I should say. But when I shoot dress rehearsals, I do try to get close because I want you to feel that you're witnessing something. You're up close. You're experiencing this dance in photos after the fact. This is Michael Clark. And this is Hervé Koubé. He's from Algeria, and he found all these different dancers that were like street dancers from like hip hop, and he just met them all, and he created this company, and it's this very masculine dance company, and they have performed here at the Joyce Theater, but now all over the world. And I wanted to show their like masculinity and strength.
As opposed to.
Yeah. That's right. And this is Mark Morris Dance Company. That's Mark, and they do many different performances, but this is the Hard Nut, which is a takeoff on the Nutcracker Suite. Very fun. You could see it comes like every other year to BAM, and it's really fun. This is at the Met Museum again, Gollum. This is Lucinda Childs. And those are projections by the artist Sol LeWitt. Again, this is shot in film. Beautiful piece from the 70s. It was redone in, 20 years later. I didn't shoot it in the 70s, but. Lucinda. So then I became became a staff photographer for the Lincoln Center Festival, which was an international festival of theater, dance, music, opera at Lincoln Center in the summers, and it was around for about 22 years. And I photographed as the house photographer, staff photographer during that time. And it was a fantastic festival in the summer because it was international, and they brought companies from all over the world to perform at the highest level, I would say, and also show their culture at a really high level. And this is the National Ballet of China. And I love this also because they're wearing their Mao uniforms as tutus and telling their story of the beginning of communism in China. And then this is the Bolshoi Ballet doing Spartacus, which is showing their top of the dance world, and their Spartacus is a very Russian story. And then this is the New York City Ballet doing Swan Lake. This is the Paris Opera Ballet backstage. Again, this is more Bolshoi backstage. And this is Nakamura, this kabuki company that came to Lincoln Center a few times. We actually went to Japan also and saw them. I try to go backstage. There's a lot of different rules and regulations when you photograph at these performing arts centers, So sometimes they're really open for you to come backstage, to have access, to roam around. Other times it's very strict and you can't get close and you can only shoot from the back of the house, and there's many different challenges again. But this being this kabuki, he's like the major kabuki star of Japan. They were quite fun, and they actually set up a tent out in Downrush Park and made this a Hamanichi runway. And it was quite an amazing production. And that's another thing that also I do quite a lot is I shoot in very alternative spaces or non-traditional spaces. So it could be in tents or armories or drill halls or galleries. So they're not always like proscenium stages, which again is really fun because you don't know exactly what the best way to do is, and you figure it out and you look at it and you come up with the best angles or things like that to tell the story. And then I'm going to show you some photos of Flexin, which is a group of dancers. They from Brooklyn. They started in a community center in a basement in Brooklyn. This guy Reggie Rock was the head of the group, and one of the curators at the Armory saw them and decided brought them to the Park Avenue Armory, and had them work also with this opera director to create this opera piece based on their personal stories. But I was brought in to photograph them, and I lit them to kind of show the body as sculpture. And they would also have these like battles, dance battles, and dance-offs, and they had a whole vocabulary, snapping, breaking, all different sort of vocabulary, dance vocabulary. There was their own. So we also created this booklet that had portraits and also sort of showing the dance positions with the language of what they were sort of translating it as. So I photographed these guys a lot of times. They're And they went on to create this beautiful dance piece that ended up actually traveling all over the world. So it's been a great success for them. And their stories were, the opera piece talked about their stories, everything from like jail or drugs or whatever to family, and really beautiful. And that's just showing you what this is one of the pieces they did at the Armory. And then we're talking about the Merce Cunningham Dance Company. So I photographed the company many times over the years. This is one of the first pieces I photographed was Biped, which I don't know if you know, Merce Cunningham is a really important choreographer. He also collaborated with a lot of incredible artists, including John Cage and Rauschenberg and Jasper Johns. And this was, and he was way ahead of his time. He was kind of amazing to be around also. And this piece, this is film also. This was on the cover of the Arts and Leisure section of the New York Times. And they created, he also did, one of the interesting things he does is he has somebody creates the decor, somebody creates the music. Nobody sees each other until the first night that they all get together. So all these different pieces come together. But also this one, they used these projections based on the dancers' movements, and it was quite beautiful. It's called Biped. It was really hard to photograph too. And that's Merce and Baryshnikov, set by Jasper Johns. Which is also in the New York Times front page, New York Times. Bottom of the page, though, not the... And this is, again, so I'm going to show you a bunch of Merce pictures. This was, so I got this assignment from the New York Times to photograph at Dia Beacon. They were doing a 2-year residency at this museum, the Dia Beacon, and I went there and I was like, wow, this is really very beautiful. Again, I was able to get up super close and really sort of connect with the dancers face to face, which again is kind of, you don't always have that opportunity. And I said, I'm going to come back here over the next 2 years and photograph the residency, because they were done at different times of the year, so the light was different each time, there were different galleries, and the art was different, and they were all sort of telling the story of Merce's contemporaries and how they influenced each other. So this was some of the dances in the galleries, and also he performed, this was the final company that Merce worked with before he died. He actually died right after this series. So when the company, after he passed away, they did a 2-year tour called the Legacy Tour, and I photographed it mostly when they were in New York or the metro area, let's say. And then their finale was at the Park Avenue Armory. They did 3 nights of, they actually call them events, which they take different pieces of the choreography that he's done over the years, and they they sort of mash them together. And so this was the finale. And so my book is of the Dia Beacon final residency, and then the finale at the Park Avenue Armory. And people who were there would remember this. It was very amazing. And then the company disbanded, as I said, it no longer exists, but they do special events around Merce. And so this was for his 100th birthday, his centennial. They did Night of 100 Solos. And again, it's sort of like an event where they took all these different pieces of the solos that he did and they combined them together. And they did one night in New York and one night in LA. And then this is, I was just saying, this was the Trisha Brown Dance Company that just last week performed this. It's Merce's choreography, but it was performed by the Trisha Brown Dance Company at BAM. And it was literally last week, and this was used again in the New York Times. So another thing that Julie asked me to talk about was the idea also about when, so in years past, used to get assignments directly from the different publications, the New York Times, or they would pick it up. They would, if they published your photo, New York Magazine, any of these places, they would pay you a license fee. But with the digital photography, that has completely changed over the years. And so it's called a handout now. So I get hired by the venues, let's say, or the dance company, or you know, the show, whatever. But they hand out, they give the photos to the publications for free, called a handout, and that's just how it works these days. So quite different. And this is Robert Wilson. I'm just going to show you a few pictures of Robert Wilson's work, who is a really influential, important opera director, theater director, who just passed away last year. And I got to photograph him, his performances many times, productions, which were always beautiful and challenging to photograph. This is Einstein on the Beach, which is about the atomic bomb. There's Einstein. And this was with a collaboration with Philip Glass. Many of you probably know this, but he always uses time, and lighting is amazing, and colors and gestures. And then this is the Park Avenue Armory, and I have been the house photographer at the Armory since its inception as a performing arts a venue. I don't know if you're familiar with that. It's literally an armory, so huge, gigantic space, and every production they have there is different. They switch it around. They use the spaces in all different ways. So again, big challenge to photograph, but incredible productions. And this is Macbeth. They did Macbeth. This is Die Soldaten, which was an opera about Nazi Germany, and the audience sat on those sort of bleachers, and it was like a track, and the track went across while the stage stayed stable, and the track moved with the audience on it. This is the Lehman trilogy. The Hairy Ape. This is back also to the Deep Blue Sea, the first performance after COVID. I'm just going to show you some of these performances. There's Bill again. And this picture I really like. I feel like it's like a textbook about science or math or something like that, but it is real people set up as like a tableau.
What is that?
And wait till the end, Ellen. Recording, huh? You can tell us what it is.
Huh?
Can you tell us what the last slide was?
I'm trying to remember the name of it.
It's all right. Don't worry.
I could tell you what it was about, but the name is, it was, everybody sat in chairs in that circle, and it was like a meditative experience where you were like in yoga chairs, and the lights changed. The artist was Titra, I can't remember the name of it. It was amazing, yeah. Of course, you asked me the one show that I haven't written down. So they do all sorts of things. They are incredible productions. This is Illinois. It's back to the Rite of Spring. And now this is Romeo and Juliet, Benjamin Millipede. And this is going on at the Armory right now as we speak. And what he has done is they've changed the groupings of Romeo and Juliet. So sometimes it's two women, sometimes it's two men, or it's a man and a woman. And it's a very beautiful piece that's going on right now. Again, these photos were used for the reviews in the New York Times and the Financial Times and New York Magazine. So. And he uses video and film throughout the armory in different rooms, and sort of tells the story of them traveling through the different rooms. And then these are just some portraits I'm going to show you. It's Bill again. This is my friend Nora York, a singer who passed away a few years ago. And this is, Ken Burns. I've actually photographed him quite a few times over the years. This was for jazz, and then this is just recently for American Revolution. Yeah. And those are the other two producers of the filmmakers with him. And this photo got picked up all over the place. I mean, everywhere, all over the place. So that's been interesting to see. I'm like, wow. I keep getting, because I have Google notifications, so I'm like, wow, this is really, again, kind of gone viral or whatever you want to say, yeah. Sam Shepard. This is Larry Fink, photographer. Sonny Rollins. This is a New Orleans jazz band. That's Robert Black. His name is Robert Black. And then, so another thing that I've done is during, I had met the head of the American Theater Wing. So during Hamilton, when Hamilton was about to win a zillion awards in the Tony Awards, I pitched a story to them to shoot backstage at the Tony Awards. So I photographed during the dress rehearsal of at the Tonys, and I've actually been doing that now every year since then. And again, I was talking about having different access to backstage or whatever, because again, as I said, there's so many rules. So this was at the Beacon Theater, and I was able to wander about, and also it was before they won the Tonys, so they were still very accessible and totally happy to have their photos taken and to communicate, and it was great. And then these are just some other, photos backstage, different companies. And what's great about shooting that again is because it's rehearsals, you can just get up really close, which really makes a difference in terms of, expressions and authenticity, I guess you would say, in a way. This is now, last year they were, now they're back at Radio City Music Hall, so you can't move around at all. You can't do anything, But before that they were, again, I said that at the Beacon, and they were also at the, at Lincoln Center. So that was able to go in their dressing rooms and things. It's kind of frustrating when you can't move around, And then the last thing I'm going to show you is last year and a half ago, I went to Rwanda to this inaugural performing arts festival they called the Kigali Triennale. It was in Rwanda. A friend of mine was the curator of dance there. That's how I heard about it. I said, I want to go to that. So I went to Rwanda, and I think I said this before, I think I'm the only person who goes to Africa. I didn't see any animals at all except for this rabbit, because we were like basically, shooting people performance. And, but they did take us up to the mountains where people in Rwanda go to trekking for gorillas up in the mountains. That's like people do. So this was a performance, a theater piece that was up in the mountains where they trek for gorillas, and it was quite an amazing piece. They used the village people. It was sort of about ritual and spirituality. I didn't quite know, there wasn't words. It was all we were just being led about. But they had a lot of different, they had some actors from Rwanda who were known, also interacting with the village people. It was quite beautiful. And he's actually a choreographer I know. I met him in New York, and I saw him there in Rwanda. So, yeah, he's a wire artist. Yeah. So yeah, and then I'm going to end with my cat, Paco. And that's it. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. Question for you just about these amazing long-time collaborations you have with different venues, with different places. What's the secret to keeping that going for so many years? Because that makes for a fantastic career to be able to do that. So
yeah, thank you. I guess I have communicated a lot with, I connect with them. I connect with the dancers. I connect with the venues. I've withered the storm, I have to say, because over many years, the people in charge have changed. Certainly one of the biggest things was, a lot of times when you're younger, everybody grows up together, let's say, and you're all working, and it's a really good working relationship, and works for them, it works for you, and have you part of their team. I would say that after COVID, that really did change quite a lot. But I guess I'm good at it, and they trust. I think part of it is that they trust that I'm going to get the picture, and so it's over these years it's worked out that way. Sometimes you lose. I used to work a lot at Lincoln Center. I don't work at Lincoln Center anymore at all because they've completely changed. But I've kept my clients close to my heart, and I try to tell their stories. That's what I try to do, is really to kind of visually tell their stories so that they trust that it's gonna visually get out there. That makes sense?
Thank you. Next.
Yeah. No?
Use this just for the recording.
Can you
Just for the recording. I need to speak up as well.
can you clarify the legalities and the working relationships of being hired, and then photo rights? Who gets what? And where are you in the picture in terms of ownership?
Right. Well, I always own my copyright.
Okay.
And I am hired, again, like I said, it's changed so much. A lot of people I have some colleagues here from the New York Times. A lot of us are here from the New York Times. And they, as I said, I've been doing this for 30, 35 years, let's say. It used to be, again, that you were hired. You always owned your copyright. But with digital photography, they changed the contract. So in the case of the New York Times, they sort of share the copyright, where they can use the photos across all their platforms, let's say, and yet I still own the photos myself. I'm not the best person to follow through on some of these. I've definitely had infringements, and I have tried to follow through on some of them. I haven't registered the copyright in many of the photos, which probably would be better. But I do own them, and anybody who takes a picture, you own your copyright. And for so for the venues that hire me, BAM or Lincoln Center, Carnegie Hall or whatever, they hire me for the photos are used for social media, for marketing, for press. And then after the fact, let's say the dance company loves the photos or the performer, and they will then come to me and license the photos directly. So it's really just used for the promotion of whatever the dance performance is to go with the reviews. It gets a little shady now. It's definitely gotten, shady. It's not black and white, I would say. It's harder. It's harder to keep track of it all. But you can, I have contact people where they, mostly I try to go for like corporations or publications, like Knopf. They published a bunch of photos that were of an author, and they kept reusing them, and so they paid me. Or I was one time in New Mexico, and I look over at this brochure. I'm visiting my cousin, and she has all these brochures, and I'm like, wait, this is my photograph. It was a Mark Morris dance company on top of their this venue in Santa Fe. So I called them up, and they had to pay. So it's definitely changed because of basically social media. They want to put the pictures out. Everything has to happen fast. So it's just a very different circumstances. You can't. The old days we had rush. And you would get paid rush fees, and you would know when your photograph was going to be in a certain publication, and you would charge a license fee. But that doesn't really exist anymore.
Okay. Well, it's not okay, but good enough.
Excuse me. Hi. A lot of really good stuff.
Thank you.
Including that one.
You should take more.
He's got me. When you're shooting in close at performances, that gives a lot of those shots are really remarkable. Are you actually on stage with them when you're doing that, or are you just able to get up really close to the stage?
Yes, mostly I'm getting just really close to the stage because, I mean, there are some where I'm, really interacting with them. I'm even directing them sometimes, some of the dance stuff. I've directed them myself, but often, they're doing a dress rehearsal, so it's a timed, they also need to do their work. Right. So you don't want to get tangled up so I'm usually at the lip of the stage or a few feet back and moving around and trying to get, but I really want to get close up because that really
What
shows.
it kind of makes you feel like is that not just that you're like seeing the dancers, but that you're in the dance yourself.
Right.
Which I think is really nice. And the other thing I liked about him is there's a lot of extraordinary kind of the way figures work with each other and sort of depth of field things too. It's nice work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Helen. Yes, young man.
Unbiased, great work.
Thanks, great.
Love it all. Photo of the two guys up there as well. Very handsome. To build on that, they do look like their own worlds. When you think about the stage, especially with the darker, deeper depth of field backgrounds, it doesn't feel like they're really in a theater. It feels like they're in their own universe, especially the ones that have really interesting costumes or there's really interesting lighting design where they feel very isolated. I think that's what's really interesting about them. And it builds on when you take these backstage photos as well, because it feels like a very strong, kind of very intimate way of photographing, which I think we don't see a lot of, when you're looking at performances or reviews of work. I wanted to ask, you were at the AP, then you were at the DOT, and then you freelanced, and, a huge portion of your career has been with performing arts. I wanted to ask what made you go through that path rather than, photography covers all kinds of things, politics, nature, travel, journalism, or even, wartime photography, all these things. And what made you kind of really invest and stick through this path of covering performing arts and kind of creating your own art repertoire from it?
Good question. I have, in the beginning of my career, let's say, I was photographing all kinds of things, including, bridges and politics and breaking news. But I always had a love of the arts and the love of music as well, and dance. And I love dance and music and theater. And always, when I was in college, I actually was the photographer, the concert committee photographer. And that was a lot of rock and roll and all of that. So anyway, I've always loved the arts. But, a lot of times you go where availability or your opportunity takes you, let's say. So again, a lot of photographers, they're doing the breaking news or things like that. And that suited me for a bit, but like I said, part of it was not just having the kids, but even before that, it's really hard to drop everything and run. And I should say some people absolutely love it. They love all the adrenaline, they love doing that. That didn't suit me, but I tried it. One of the things that I knew I really wasn't cut out for that was 9/11, when I was supposed to, and I have done a lot of political figures actually. I haven't shown any of that work, but, and back then I was supposed to photograph that day Mark Green, who was running for mayor. He was being nominated to be the Democratic candidate for mayor. And I was supposed to go to his house that morning, and then of course 9/11 happened, and I heard it on the radio, and I rushed out, and everything was closing, and I ended up going to Lincoln Center and whatever, and walking down Broadway, and I had my cameras with me and everything, but I was like, I'm not going to that. You know, it's like that. I'm scared. I'm not. That's not me. I'm not going to go on the pile of rubble and photograph all of that. That's when I knew that that's not my scene. You know, other people did it and did an amazing story, and of course the New York Times covered it incredibly. But that's when I kind of knew that's not who I am. You know, so but I have shot a lot of politics. I've done a lot of journalism, social documentary, but I'm showing, you know, this body of work. This is the work I really enjoy doing. I love doing it, and I still love seeing the dance companies and, you know, getting that shot where everything sort of works in the frame and the lighting looks great, and I caught the moment. I still love that. That's what I'm chasing. You know, that's my adrenaline charge.
Someone over here, I believe.
Yeah, my question was, what has been the hardest or most challenging change to adapt to over your career?
Well, when we went digital, that was a very interesting change, and I had to adapt along with, you know, everybody, and learn how to use those cameras, and also, you know, post-production. That's been a big deal. Because again, you know, we used to drop our film off and go to the lab and then wait for the film to be processed. And if it was a rush, you could charge the client extra money for the rush charges. And you would go and meet people for lunch or, you know, coffee and wait. And, you know, so everything, that all shifted. And maybe one of the biggest things I'm going to say is that I'm alone a lot. That's probably the biggest change. I used to be, it was much more of a community. Where we would be able to, again, like I said, meet people. There was all these labs. There was camera stores. There were go to the New York Times, which I said they had like the photographer's room, and you would talk to the old timers, and you'd say, how do you do this, and what you do, and they would love to tell you stories, and it was just like a much more of a community. And now I work at home by myself, and I download my photos, and they're telling me, oh, you need the photo tomorrow morning, and I'm, you know, doing all that stuff, and I'm doing all the post-production, and it's lonelier. It's definitely a lonelier, you know, we're solo freelancers, photographers, but I feel actually for your generation, because you have to work from home. It's like weird, you know, like some people don't go to offices, right? That's like, you're missing out. But that's how the world has adapted, so I've adapted that way too.
Yes. So you don't have to go too far. So this is a comment about physicality. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting seeing those pictures of you really early on at the top of those bridges. I mean, I would be terrified of going that high. And you've talked to me certainly about being up and having to go in crawl spaces and stuff. We don't see that in these photographs, right. But maybe you could talk about the physical challenges of being a photographer and trying to get these various angles.
Yeah, I mean, maybe some of that, I don't know if it looks easy or not, but you know, yeah, you're carrying a lot. First of all, back then, carrying all the camera equipment and going up. I was so much younger. Didn't have the fear that I have now, but definitely crawling underneath spaces, crawling into the water tunnels. That was pretty unusual. But even I mean, as a photographer, it is a very physical career. It really is, and it still continues. And one thing I didn't show, but I'll talk about is, so I work a lot at Carnegie Hall, and they have, I don't know if there's a photo that probably a lot of you've seen where it's like the conductor, there's an orchestra and the conductor's looking at you, and the audience is in the background. It's like like a big wide shot. It's like a shot that they use quite often when different orchestras come. Well, to do that photo, which I've done many times, you have to crawl into this little door. It's in the back, it's in the green room behind the stage. It's pitch black. You crawl up a ladder that's like straight up. And again, you're having like 3 different cameras and lenses, and you crawl up. You have to be absolutely silent. That's another thing, because you can't make noise because it's a classical music concert. And then you climb it to the top and you open up this little door, and there's a window, it's about that big. And so that's what you photograph from, that window. And you have to stick your camera through and your body through to get this little, but it's an incredibly beautiful photograph. And I think that's what photographers do. It's like, I want that, I wanted that view. So what do I have to do to get there? Do I have to climb up? At the Armory, I have to climb up a lot. I climb. I guess I still like to climb a lot. But yeah, I also had to have back surgery at a certain point a few years ago. But yeah, I guess you see the view that you want to get, and so you try to figure out how to get it, and that does entail climbing into strange positions, Yeah.
Yes, sir. Robert, you're next.
Okay. Hi, how do you buy your work?
How do I buy your work?
Yeah, I mean the old pictures, like
Yes, talk to her.
I like the Bolshoi. I saw that performance, and I want to buy that
Oh.
Bolshoi shot. The
All
one from
right.
the Bolshoi.
Just let's talk about it after the show.
Thank you so much for everything you shared. I'm curious about your work with the Department of Transportation. And what you shared with us tonight really demonstrates your eye for the people who are working on the projects, and also the beauty of the city and how the bridges fit into that. I'm curious, were you hired to capture that kind of personality, or were you hired to take photos of the deterioration?
Well, the great, again, about relationships, it was that I had met the Commissioner of Transportation before he became the Commissioner, and we just kind of hit it off. And he was like, when he got this position, he wanted a photographer. He said, I want to hire you. And with that, he gave me the freedom to do whatever I wanted to do. So, I mean, some people probably would approach it in a different way. Let's say they did have to tell the story of the deterioration of especially the Williamsburg Bridge. They actually created the Department of Bridges during that time, and because they closed it for 6 weeks, and it was a big thing. And but I brought my eye. I wasn't just gonna, I wanted to photograph, do portrait, like do a portrait of a bridge, let's say. So that's what I brought to it, and yeah, and we got, and it was, they were like, they got it. They understood what I wanted to do. The people around me, kind of thing, was like, oh. You want to go to the tops of the bridges? Okay, we'll take you there, So it all sort of, as I was doing it more, I had more of a vision about what I wanted to show, and people were into it, And also the women who work in non-traditional jobs, they also, the word got out, that we were working on this, and we did all these interviews. So people were open to it, and one thing leads to the next, and you create a project, and so I don't think they knew that when we started that would all come out of it, but that's what we did.
Any more? Yes, Star.
Hi, great work. I'm one of the students here in the program. I'm also a former city employee, so go city.
What department?
There's conflicts of interest board, so. Yeah, we kept you from getting that check.
Yeah.
Or Board of Ethics back in those days, probably.
Board of Ethics. I was mortified.
Yeah, sorry. I'm kind of interested about when you're at the places where you're house photographer, what your pre-production kind of process is like, especially for these touring shows that are coming in. Like, how much time do you have, or what do you know about the show beforehand, or to kind of get you ready for getting that shot, for that one moment when you need it and everything?
I don't know much of anything. Literally, we walk in and it's like, maybe they'll tell you, yeah, well, there's going to be, maybe they'll say this area, this part gets really dark or something like that, But it's just kind of like, I've done it for so many years, I can sort of feel or understand or anticipate what I'm going to see, or what the jumps might be, or what the action is, or again, getting close, or I also shoot a lot from the back of the house of these venues with really long lenses. I do that a lot, and so you don't know, it's live shows, you don't know what you're going to see. Sometimes you miss it, you miss the action, but you sort of anticipate, I think, and I have a sense of rhythm, and I think that's what you need to bring to be a performing arts photographer. You need to have like anticipation of rhythm and action and sense of composition. So, but we don't really know. I mean, some at the Armory, I usually shoot twice because it's such a gigantic production. So I usually shoot the dress rehearsal, and then I shoot the opening night preview or performance. So I see it twice, but that is sort of unusual. Usually it's just you shot it one time and that's it.
Stephanie, great work. Congratulations.
Randy.
And it's fabulous seeing your career develop over the last 30 years. Bravo.
Thank you, sir.
So I've got a question, since this is digital.
Ah.
Do you think by coming from film, 36 images on a roll, that your timing and your, I guess, prejudging, kind of knowing what's going to happen, it was more from only being able to have 36 images, where now you can shoot 2,000 in a couple of seconds? Do you think that really helped you? And do you think that students now should kind of restrict themselves in modes like that, if they're practicing, to only do 40 images and see what they made and what they missed, so their timing will be better?
I think that's absolutely true. Yeah, I mean, when we had to shoot 36 exposures on a roll, you really had to look carefully, and you would miss things, but it definitely changed with digital and the motor drive, and you just stick it on motor drive and you get, and it's boring. It's kind of boring in little ways, and what's boring is the post-production and having to edit it and look, and you're like, I don't even want to look at this anymore. It's like there's so much. You can shoot 2,000 photos of one performance, where you used to shoot 5 rolls or something like that. So it definitely has evolved and changed. I mean, I do love it, and I do love when I do catch the shot that sort of says it all. But I think the training, shooting film, absolutely was the foundation that made me a better photographer, for sure. Don't you think that?
Thank you. Anyone else? Last call. Yes, hi. How you doing?
Hi, thank you for sharing everything.
Sure.
The images are really beautiful. So I'm curious about what are some good ways for photographers who are also interested in photographing.
Actually, can you say it again?
Oh, okay. I'm interested. I'm curious about what are some good ways for photographers who are also interested in photographing performances to find jobs.
I knew someone was going to ask me that too. There's a lot of performing arts going on in New York and Brooklyn, and so part of how did I get my work too? I went out there and I photographed things, and then I had a portfolio and I showed that to editors. I don't really know exactly how it works anymore, because I don't show my work to editors that much to get work, but I'm assuming that, you have to create a body of work, I think, and people will recognize that, and maybe you put it on social media. There's a lot of reviews online, and you could submit, I guess. I just think you have to get out there. One of the things I was trying to say when I was showing this work is I pitch stories, and I think that's what you have to do. You just have to have curiosity, and you have to pitch, and then things lead to other things, really. And if you love it, and then it shows that you love it and you care, you get hired again, and you get relationships with people, and that's how it worked for me. So, yeah.
Anyone else? Yes, sir. More praise?
Steph, how high ISO are you going in low light?
Amazing. So with digital again, I try not to get above like 12,000, but you could get 1,000. I tried to shoot at like 8,000 ISO, let's say, or maybe 10,000 ISO. But you could shoot at, my cameras are really good. They're really good. And you could shoot at 24,000 ISO, I guess. I don't really do that, but you could. You just have to do post-production, get rid of the noise, and so, but I don't really do that, but one could.
One could, but it doesn't mean one should. All right. Anyone else? Yes, Stefan.
Well, then tell us what cameras you use.
So now I use Sony's A9s, A1s, and I have zoom lenses. I don't have the fastest lenses. I have like 0.4 lenses, and I do have some 2.8, but I still use 0.4 lenses. I use Sony's. I used to use Nikon for years and years, and I loved my Nikon, but they're so heavy that I can't even hold a Nikon anymore. I can't even hold. Like I used to have 300 millimeter 2.8 lenses that were so heavy, and so the Sonys are light. They're silent, which is amazing because as we know, people who photograph performing arts and music, they want to kill you if they hear your camera. And I've been thrown out, I've been yelled at plenty of performances. I used to have a motor drive and thing would, make all this noise. You'd be holding it, or you had, or the click, So now the cameras are silent. That's amazing, and they can shoot under really low light. And you can shoot 2,000 photos. So there you go. So it's different.
Okay, last one, huh?
So back then you would never use a blimp like on movie sets?
I did use a blimp.
I did.
I use a soft blimp usually, though. I have used hard blimps when I've done also photography on like television sets, but mostly I would use soft blimps. And I see there's a couple of photographers here who shoot at Carnegie Hall, who know about like literally these incredibly classical concerts where people are paying all this money and you're literally right behind the audience, and it was just such a headache to have cameras that clicked. I mean, it was really, really difficult. But I would wrap my camera too sometimes with like a velvet, scarf or whatever, and I had these blimps. So I did everything I could to kind of minimize the noise.
Great. Okay, last sweep. Any more? Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.